Welcome, everybody, to If I May, a podcast with me, Nick, an average guy, along with three of my average friends, Kyle, Dylan, and Brent. Tonight, we're going to talk, record it, and throw it out onto the internet for all you folks to listen to, because we awesome like that. This is episode 45.
I didn't actually hear I didn't hear the "Let's Go" part, so that was kind of funny. This is episode 45. I was waiting for a "Let's Go," and there was no "Let's Go."
I said it.
I know.
Just
It's okay.
out. At any rate, Kyle, can you share what's on the docket for us today?
What is on the docket for today is, I got like two things I could talk about, and I'm sure we'll have plenty more that'll come up mid-conversation. And then, of course, we will end with Game of Thrones. Again, we will be talking about Game of Thrones every episode now until Game of Thrones is over and potentially a little bit after. But we will be talking about Game of Thrones. We'll save it to the end, though, and we'll let you know very clearly when we're going to Game of Thrones. But last 20, 30 minutes or so will be Game of Thrones talk.
Spoiler alert
spoiler
is active.
Yes, there will be spoilers
Dumbledore,
during Game of Thrones.
What? No, he didn't.
Dumbledore died? No.
He lived forever in our hearts.
Speaking of Dumbledore-looking people.
That is a segue if I ever heard one. Are you sure I'm not giving this segue? It seems like something I've been doing.
I don't know how I feel about that segue, but on the way
started it. You gotta
home
finish it now.
from work today, after spending more money than I expected to on a suit with its alterations that are needed, there was a homeless guy on the side of the road that said he was homeless with two kids, and I was like, I typically don't give homeless people anything, but I was like, whatever. Like, I just spent so much money on a suit, like I can give this guy $5. And I was like, I literally had zero cash on me, but inside my wallet in my center console in my car, it's just like my extra papers stuff wallet. Like, I don't actually it's like my four-wheeling certification and like boater safety. It's that kind of junk. I literally have a wallet in my center console just for all that junk that I don't need with me at all times. And in there I had some Culver's free ice cream coupons. And so I was just like, oh, hey buddy, you go to Culver's? And he was like, huh? I was like, here's some free ice cream. And so I gave him probably like 4 or 5 free ice creams at Culver's, which, to be honest, that's probably some of the best ice cream out there as far as like that goes. Custard, yeah, custard. You're right. You're right. It's custard.
Can you see him like walking into a Culver's though and being like, "I just."
Yeah, I kind of thought about that afterwards.
Practical?
I was like, but that's where this topic comes from. Is like, what would be an actual useful thing to give a homeless person? Like, I don't want to just straight up give them money because then they can use it for whatever. Like, do you get a bunch of like $5 McDonald's gift cards and give them out? I mean, that might make sense because
that's the same thing where they have to walk into a public place and
they're not allowed to walk into a public place.
They absolutely can, but I feel like most homeless people that are actually homeless feel uncomfortable walking into a fast food restaurant.
Even a McDonald's. Even a McDonald's.
I guess I don't really know. I've never been homeless, so I don't know what homeless people are uncomfortable doing. But
I feel like if I was homeless, McDonald's, I would not give a single F if whoever saw me in a McDonald's.
You gotta do something healthier though. McDonald's.
So that was my other thought. Like, I do like if I want to do something for homeless besides like volunteering at a food shelter, which is definitely like probably hits way more people, and I know
probably preferred.
Yeah, right. My work does that, but like for the people standing on the side of the road, like what can you actually give them? Like I know, like maybe
I can tell you what I do. So being like having a military background, I kind of think about it as I think about it as a calorie intake. So, like, if you're going to feed some homeless dude and you give him a burger, he's probably going to be hungry in, like, 2 hours. All right? So, what I do is I actually keep a stash of MREs in my trunk, in my car, a stash of MREs and bottled waters. And I always keep at least one MRE and one bottle of water in my glove compartment. So that way, if I'm, like, driving down the road, because you always see them, being down like near the cities, you always see them on the intersections.
Yeah, right by the stoplights where people are waiting.
Yeah, and then you just like either if it's nighttime, you flash their high beams and they walk over and you be like, "Hey, I got some food for you. Are you hungry?" And they say sure, and then you hand them an MRE and say the instructions are it has all the instructions on it, which it
Yeah,
does.
aren't they like
And
Lego
here's
instructions where you
and
don't
then
even
I
need to
yeah,
read
it's
English?
like step by step, and then also like I tell the person, I'm just like, hey, this bottled water is for your MRE, like you need water for it to work. And they go, oh, thank you very much. Like, so the way I look at it is like in one MRE, it's over 1,000 calories, like easily over 1,000, and it's basically an entire. If you ration it, it's an entire day's worth of food, and that's $7 for me to buy. An MRE is $7 at the local store.
Is that for
So the
you to
way
buy, or could
for
anybody
me to
buy them for
buy,
seven
literally,
dollars?
like if I were to go and buy an MRE at the store, and it could be any civilian, if you walk into like a military surplus store or anything like that, you can buy an MRE for like $7, and it's literally an entire day's worth of food.
Interesting.
That
I don't
wins.
know if I
And
want to carry a bunch of
I keep
MREs
one in my
around
glove
in my
compartment,
car
and then
though.
I keep one in my glove compartment with a bottle of water, and then whenever I see a homeless person, I go, here's a. And then when I use that, then I just go in my trunk and I go to my stash, and I keep it underneath my trunk. By your spare tire, there's like a space underneath the floor to
Oh,
your
I
spare
gotcha.
tire. Like your
You just
MREs
you
and
just
your
don't have a spare
waters will
tire.
fit by the tire. What's that?
You just don't have a spare tire.
No, I have a spare tire, but there's still a space in between the tire and the top, like the little cardboard thing that goes over the top. There's
See,
plenty of
I have
space,
way
so
too much
I
junk in my
line the
trunk.
entire thing.
I have way too much
Oh,
stuff in my trunk to even like think about accessing that area unless I absolutely need to. Like I
well,
could
it's like
I could live out of my
whenever,
car
like,
if I needed to.
yeah, and so I keep a bunch of MREs and bottled waters in my back and like my spare space, so that way whenever I use the glove compartment, I just restock the glove compartment, and then whenever I come across some homeless person, I go, hey, are you hungry? Do you want some food? And they say yeah, then I pass them an MRE. That way, like they'll eat longer. Um,
That's fair.
but I mean, I don't like, and then there's some people that hand out cash, and it depends on the homeless person whether that's a good choice or not. Like some people, another way to look at it is, it's hard to get like something started or something going by people just giving you food. So like if you wanted to start like a small business selling something, you can't really do that when people just give you food.
Yeah, right. So do
So
I
like
go with like the other thought I had was like $5 Walmart cards, because that way like no matter what they need, food, clothing, whatever, it's now useful for them. The only downside with that as well as cash is the fact that they could spend it on alcohol and that kind of stuff. Which honestly, if a person has a really funny ass sign saying like not gonna lie, all donations will go to alcohol, I might give that guy $5 anyway because he's funny. But like I don't know. I feel like it's probably better spent not going towards that kind of thing.
and like just south of the base here, basically we see homeless people, and and it depends on the weather too. Um, if it's like really nice weather, they'll be everywhere, and if it's like kind of weather, like it's hard to find some. So that makes me think like, um, where are these homeless people going? Are they truly homeless people? Or are they just out here when it's convenient for them? Like I don't understand what's going on, because I know that there's a big thing with people, especially in this area, um, being part of there's like a group here that basically makes signs. They go out, and I think I was talking to my girlfriend earlier, and she calls them like Irish settlers or something like that, where it's just like a group of people, and they travel around, and they're just like traveling beggars. And I don't really understand that lifestyle, but I don't know like whether I should be helping them or not. I just don't know.
Because actually, that's funny you say that. Because I know in Santorini, when my wife and I were there for our honeymoon, like there were signs everywhere saying like, "Do not give quote unquote homeless people anything. They're not. There's plenty of jobs here. We wanna hire more people. There's actually a shortage of workforce. Like you're only, encouraging them to continue to do nothing instead of get a job because they're like, there's plenty of jobs."
So can I
Yeah.
jump in on that note and be the horrible human being that I am?
Do it. I wanna
Sounds
hear it.
great.
Not today.
Sounds fantastic.
I want to hear it.
No. Okay, go ahead.
So I've read a fair amount on both sides, and frankly, I don't trust either side because I've read all kinds of articles of people who claim to be, well informed or have gone to a city and straight up asked people what they do, homeless people what they do with the money they receive, or gone undercover or this or that, and they all have a really good story of no, they actually need food, and no, they actually need help. And those are all heartfelt things that make us all want to give. But I've also read those things that and seen those things that living in Minneapolis, bad things are happening. People are giving these homeless folks money, and I've seen a couple different angles, because I've been to California where people will just walk with you if you're walking near the beach, and they'll strike up a conversation, and midway through it or halfway through it, they reveal their intention, and not that I didn't know from the beginning, that they like some money. And they can be very complimentary. I think my dad and I were walking. We were in California for the Rose Bowl. And of course, all the tourists are in town, and we're all, giant bullseyes on our backs. And this gentleman walked with us, and we, for whatever reason, were checking out the basketball courts. And he was very complimentary of my father and said he was a power forward and, more than capable of playing in, whatever league, and blah, blah, blah. And, oh, by the way, can I have some money? And I don't think we gave him anything, but there was that. And then there's also the quote unquote rappers trying to make it, who are like, oh yeah, free CD. And you're like, all right, free
dude,
CD.
There's
cool.
those guys
and,
in downtown
by the
Chicago.
way, donations. Where they're selling CDs, giving them away for free, but then asking for money after.
Yeah. I totally gave a guy $5 for a CD. I have it. I listened to it all the way home from Chicago.
I didn't. Dad got pissed, so then he gave him $5 because I think he didn't want to get mugged after the fact. But
like you took the CD and you were like, nah, I'd rather not.
Yeah, like you're giving away free CDs. I'm sorry, you're stupid, but yeah. So I guess I've seen that side of it, and I've seen in Minneapolis there's a bad area, and I went to watch a play with some friends, and after that play, we spill out onto the streets, and it was late at night, and there was clearly a deranged lady who was in withdrawal from whatever drug is her drug of choice, and she is like sniffing and tweaking out in my face. Megan was flipping out, and I was just making sure I stood between her and Megan, and I just stood my ground.
My hero.
Like, she came up to us and was in our face, and it's like people were paying her just to get her out of their face because she knew she was disgusting. Like, she had her hand down her ass, just like she's sniffing, snorting, tweaking out like you wouldn't believe. And like I stood there, I stood my ground, and then another man just looked at me, and you just kind of had that, yep, this is happening moment, and he just looked at me and said, yeah, she needs some kind of help. But there's someone like that clearly is on drugs and needs help. And then there's the people I've seen while I used to take the metro to work. And every morning at the end of the line, which is where I got on, they would clear out the homeless people so the business people can get to work and not be harassed by the homeless people who slept on the metro all night. So I've seen a lot of different sides, and Megan is a much kinder heart than myself, and she is pro giving socks or something like that that are useful, especially in a northern climate. But if I can step away from whether or not you give or don't give, I just want to look at the bigger picture and say, okay, right now is fantastic. It is as good as it has been in quite some time. After the quote-unquote Great Recession, or whatever you want to call it, in the late 2008, 2009 timeframe, things are on track. There's a Republican in office for president, and generally that means good things for business. Now, regardless of what you feel, Republican, Democrat, blah, 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 the economy is doing very well. And I have experience with a number of organizations that are struggling to find work. And there are sob stories that I've read in the paper about our hometown, Appleton, Wisconsin, where, and I can only imagine, I mean, in Appleton, I'm sure there are people in need, but you got a lot of spoiled people who just don't understand the world. Some people were begging off the side of a highway on 41, and a local business owner, I believe it was Taco Bell or someone like that, came up to him and offered him a job, said, hey, I can't hire people. I need people to work. Come work for me. And they said no.
It's like, then get out of here.
So then the story was that the entrepreneur then took a sign and stood next to him until they left, and it basically said offered them a job, they wouldn't take it. And of course, they didn't get any money then. But granted, that's one story I read. I don't know all the facts. I just know that in our area of the world where we're from, that's not so much a major problem as in cities like Minneapolis, Chicago, what have you. But in the grander scheme, there are jobs, there are availability. Yes, you have to pass a background check for better jobs, but there are a lot of jobs you don't have to pass a background check for.
You just have to show up on time. That's basically it for a lot of jobs.
Have to show up. I mean, you can smell bad, you can do this, doesn't matter. And there's all kinds of lovely, great stories about entrepreneurs or restaurant owners, people asking for food and then putting them to work doing dishes, and they're felons, so they can't get hired other places. And those are great people who take a risk and hopefully have a great story to tell about helping someone out of the slum. But for every one of those, there's just a lot of pieces of crap human beings out there, and I refuse to help in the way of handouts. I will help someone find a job. I love building resumes to the point of irritating my friends and family.
What's your past experience? Well, I'm really good at pushing shopping carts.
I worked at Home Depot pushing shopping carts in high school. I loved it. It was great. They're hiring right now. There are signs everywhere at businesses just like that. If you have physical limitations, they work with that. The labor market is what is unemployment right now? I think it's
like 4%,
somewhere around
something like that.
4%, 3%, something like that. And that's, it'll boom seasonally, where as Black Friday approaches and that season comes, companies can't hire enough people, even though they're piles of crap. I mean, it's temporary work, but I mean, there are jobs out there. You can do something, and you work enough temporary jobs and you will get hired for a permanent job. You have to show up on time. Like, I understand that's difficult for some people, and transportation and this and that and the other thing, but I am.
If I may though, you gave the example of the person that has didn't want to take the job working at a restaurant, and I think that's only a segment of that homeless population. I think it's a much broader issue than just the very visible people you might see on the corners, and that's definitely issues on their own. But I think there's also a big problem of homelessness of the people that they don't have a home, and if you don't have a place that you can like put down as a permanent address as a job, like, and you're just going from couch to couch, like, it's really hard to get a job. You have to, like, where are they going to contact you? Well, I don't live anywhere. Like,
I don't have a cell phone.
I don't have this, like, these things. And I feel like there's this population that's very vocal, and they do those things like drugs, and that's definitely a major issue. And I think there's another group that you don't see, and that are trying to get jobs, or they have jobs, and maybe they're working a bunch of jobs, like 3 or 4 jobs, but the rent is, they still can't pay rent, or they have massive debt because they made bad decisions, and like, it's just one of those things that's really hard to.
So if I may, I'll pivot.
Segment into, like, not every person that's homeless is,
before we pivot off of homelessness,
not a bad worker.
I'll say, if I may, before we pivot off of homelessness, I think Dylan, I don't know if you want to share, but I think you had a pretty good story with your dad and a homeless person or something. I believe that was a homeless person.
I've had a lot of interesting interactions with homeless people in my past. But I think, were you talking about my stepdad, Kyle?
Maybe, where he like helped out a homeless person, and then
yes. So down here in Nashville, there's a lot of homeless people, and my stepdad, he just moved down here, like, maybe, like, this was like when he first moved down here, and he was like getting to know like the homeless people around the apartment building they were living in, and he like met one homeless person that he like really clicked with. Like, he became like really good friends with this dude, and they ended up like taking him into their apartment and like feeding them, and feeding this guy, and like then like he actually ended up bringing this homeless guy up to the apartment and watched the Super Bowl with this homeless guy, and this was like a couple years ago, and they became really close, and he gave this homeless guy like $200 to like get back on his feet and like kind of figure himself out. And then he disappeared for like a little while, and Dan, my stepdad, kind of looked into it, and he like didn't know where this guy went, and they saw on the paper like a couple days later that like this homeless guy got killed. Like he got like killed outside their apartment building. Like and he was like super upset about it because this is like a friend that he got to know and like
Plus, it's right outside his apartment building.
yeah. So
that's
that's
the sketchier part almost.
Yeah, and I was all right. And another, so that was just one interaction. So another thing, I was walking through Seattle yesterday, and I don't know if you've been to Seattle, but there's like a lot of homeless people there.
I've been to Seattle, and Brent
If
lives
I
in
may,
Seattle.
if I may, you're in Seattle and you haven't stopped by to say hi.
I didn't know you live in Seattle, actually.
Oh yeah, I live in Seattle. Look at that.
That's
Are you
really
in Seattle
awkward.
right now?
No, I flew back this morning.
Oh, that was a misconnection right there.
I'm sorry, I didn't know.
Well,
But yeah, I
for
was in
everybody's-
Seattle
everybody's
yesterday.
for everybody's
on,
future
carry on.
reference, and for the benefit of the audience, I, Kyle, live near Denver. Nick lives in the Minneapolis area. Dylan is in the Army, so he can be anywhere in the world. And Brent's over in Seattle.
Now
Alright.
we know. All right,
Now
carry
I
on.
know
Sorry
if
about
I
that.
ever go back to Seattle, now I know that you live there.
Next time.
But
Next time.
yeah, I'll have to swing by. And anyways, there was a lot of homeless people, and we went down to not the wharf, but I'm trying to think of the fish market down there. Do you know the
Yeah,
name,
yeah.
Brent?
Pike's Place.
Anyway, Pike's Place. Yeah, I was down at Pike's Place, and obviously there's a lot of homeless people on the steps in between the wharf and Pike's Place. And I didn't know that there was there was like a homeless must be a soup kitchen or something, but there was like a line of homeless people, and I like didn't even recognize that they're
You just got
homeless.
in
Like
line?
everyone. Well, no, I didn't. I almost did. My girlfriend kind of like dragged me to the side and was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Well,
There's a
I want
line
to see
here."
what I wanted to see what they're lining up for." And because I was thought maybe it was some show, like like all the homeless people, like they all have raincoats. Obviously, I didn't even put it together, but they looked like normal people, which I mean, obviously they're normal people, but they looked like just normal civilians. So I didn't even recognize that they were homeless people. And
I like
then
how you
my
refer to everybody
girlfriend
else as
grabs me and pulls me
civilians
aside
now.
and was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Well, I was gonna get in line and see what was going on." And she's like, "That's a homeless shelter. Like they're trying to get food." And I like didn't even realize it. Anyways, there's one homeless person that stuck out in my mind from this trip, and he was sitting underneath a bridge, and it was like a bridge going from the wharf up to the street, and it was like just like a walking bridge underneath an overpass, and he was sitting there playing a game on his tablet. And I was like, that's kind of interesting. Like it just kind of stuck out in my mind. Like I've never seen a homeless person playing on a tablet. So I don't know. It was just I thought it was interesting, and I thought I'd bring it up because I've just never seen it.
This is why Seattle is called Freeattle. That Seattle has actually like a huge homeless person issue. I don't know if Brent wants to touch on it, but I watched a documentary on it not too long ago. That's like an hour. It was a good documentary. The transition music got a little old pretty quick, but
They're very dramatic. I will say that whole
The
new
homeless people?
station. No, there's a station in Seattle called Cairo. It does like TV, and they have a radio channel, and they're very outspoken and convinced that Seattle is dying, and they're going to be pushing that what Seattle is doing, what the government's doing, is basically what Kyle's saying, is making it a Freeattle where they're encouraging homelessness, and it's just I think it's a problem that they haven't figured out how to solve yet, and it's probably not. I mean, maybe it is more dramatic than like it deserves to be, but they dramatize things. Basically, they make it like apocalyptic.
all right, Nick, let's pivot us out of homelessness.
Well, we're kind of moving in that direction. So there's what's the word for what Brent does?
Freeattle.
No, where he transitions and he has it all old fashioned most of the time. No, what I was gonna say more on the
Nailed
the
that
homeless-
transition, Nick.
Well, right. I'm saying I couldn't remember what it's called, and I'm not trying to
Segue.
make a perfect transition.
Perfect
Yeah,
segue.
there we go. That's the word.
Whatever. At any rate, what I was going to go into is regarding this unseen population of suffering homeless people, and I guess I almost acknowledge that I am I am a privileged white man. I have not had to struggle. My parents both did a great job of raising me, educating me, taking care of me, teaching me right from wrong, and providing for me financially in ways that most people don't have or never will have, which, probably mitigates a lot of my opinion, but I'll share it nonetheless. You are a product of your decisions. In defense of my upbringing from a privileged point of view, I will share that if I didn't have the options I did for college, if my family weren't able to assist in that endeavor for my betterment, my plan was to go into the military. And my dad shared with me that was his backup plan too. If he didn't get a scholarship for basketball, which he did, he was going to go into the military. And my thought was the same train of thought. Like, I have backup plans on backup plans. That's what I do. If an intruder breaks into my house right now, I have 6 different ways to get to my gun, and I have at least 5 different escape routes. Like, I think about this stuff. I'm a freak. I get it. But for life planning, I look at this and I say, okay, you graduate high school and you need to have a plan. And I didn't know what I wanted to be. I still don't know, how I want to get where I want to get. I know I want to have a certain level of success as I define it, but my decisions are what will drive that happening. And there's 2 schools of thought. There's, everything happens to me and, I can't control anything. Or there's, no, I make the decisions and, some things don't go my way, but it's a product of the decisions that I've made to put myself in a certain position. So when you have someone who didn't try in school or didn't take things seriously, like, I feel a little bit bad because not everyone understands that the world is a harsh place. And okay, once mommy and daddy are done paying bills, you got to figure shit out. It's hard. Not everyone was raised well, and there's all kinds of things going on with millennials who are really struggling, and it's struggling in a lot of ways. There's school debt, and we were the first generation seemingly raised with participation trophies. So everyone's upset that throughout their entire growth, they always got a participation ribbon for showing up to the soccer tournament, because that's what everyone did in Appleton. As a kid, everyone at least played soccer for a year or 2. But
yeah, I was going.
Everyone always got a ribbon. Everyone always showed up. And now you're showing up to your first job after college or after high school, and your boss rips you a new rear end, and you don't know how to handle it. Handle constructive criticism or criticism, period. So you end up quitting, or you can't find a job, or you went to college for a fancy, you got a fancy degree that has, 3 job openings, and there's 14 universities in the country that have 50 students graduating every year in that area, and they're fighting for 3 jobs. Like, you just made bad choices, and you have to figure it out. You have to be willing to work a job you don't like. You have to be willing to take a job that pays $28,000 a year, rather than saying, oh, well, I went to college, I should be making 60, 70, $100,000. And there's all kinds of articles in the news that millennials are killing this, or millennials doing that. And what I'd like to segue to here is the new proposal by Elizabeth Warren, Senator.
That was a long
Elizabeth
segue.
Well, I'm taking us from homeless people and people who haven't figured things out to the news of the week, which is Elizabeth Warren.
Is it Nick's Nutty's news?
If I may, wait. If I may,
I don't want that. I don't want it. Don't play it. God damn it.
It is now.
If I may,
time
though,
for Nick's
if I may,
Nutty News. Brent, you're interrupting Nick's Nutty News.
I know, but with his segue, he did make points that I'll let slide this time. But I think in a lot of cases too, some of the issues with what you're saying is that school, especially more recently, has been teach to the test. We have to get these kids ready for college, and they don't do a very good job of getting people ready. We had 1 semester.
Do you like to know why?
All of semesters of personal financial management. Yeah.
Do you like to know why?
Why?
Education is run by the left.
So when the right's there.
Okay, and we're into
the left does not live in the real world.
It is now time for Nick's
education
Nutty
is important.
News.
All right.
Nutty news. Elizabeth Warren is running for president, and part of her presidential campaign is a bomb dropped for all of the whiny millennials saying, I have too much school debt. And that shows where I stand on it. Truth be told, it would be intriguing to see something like this happen. Beyond the outlook of what this costs financially or what this means for competition, it's for me, it's best play to win a demographic of the voting population that I don't think is that important. Maybe that's my hot take or my different view outside of the politics of it. She's making a real push as a woman, which is, a big move. Hillary came close last year, to seal the younger generations. And of course, that's the future. That's this. But I don't know that she'll be able to rally enough of that area, even though that's her target. I still am a believer that the middle-aged and elderly, and I'm not going to define those because I don't know what I'm talking about enough to define those, control the voting. They are the people who are active. Those are the people who are concerned more so than the youth. It's a great effort to get the youth involved, which have great numbers and potential. But when you're going against a Bernie Sanders or someone else like that,
like Bernie.
Right. I think people are going to struggle unless they have a gimmick like this that is so huge to such a huge population. So what are your thoughts on this?
I think part of why she's going for this strategy is that there was, by appealing to the demographic, there has been minor successes throughout like the House and Senate. I know Alabama voted out like a Republican and put in a Democrat based off of more of these, I think group Elizabeth Warren's trying to get to, like what she's segueing in. But I do agree. I think that the people that got Trump into the candidacy, that's still a really strong voting base. And that's going to be tough for any Democrat that doesn't have all these different opposing sides together. Like the Republicans have advantage because it's all pretty much you're either with Trump or you're not. It's not many segments. But I think when you get to the left, it's very segmented. And I think unless you can appeal to more than just like the millennials or more than just one minority, it's going to be really challenging.
If I may, I completely agree. This makes her a contender, though, because it's going to it impacts such a huge portion, a huge demographic that the left is desperate to win over. I could see someone like Bernie Sanders, who I think will be the winner on that side, taking over this proposal and endorsing it fully and saying that he will push that through as part of his platform. I would absolutely see something like that.
If I may, and maybe this is an off podcast topic we should talk about, but I personally don't like listening to politics, so I'm not sure if we should be getting into politics.
I may,
that's what I got.
I'll shoot in here. And
are we going? Are we going to go on a meta discussion here? Or are we going to just let that slide?
If I may, I'd like to shoot in here and say that the military will pay off any student loans that you have and will pay for higher education if you choose.
So, Dylan, are they paying for your student loans now, even though you graduated before going to the military?
Most of my student loans are already paid off before I enlisted. So I didn't qualify. But if you say you just graduated college and you decide that military is for you, for example, like I said, I had almost all my student loans paid off already before I enlisted. But some people, like myself, will choose the military directly after college just because I just didn't want to be in a civilian job at the time. Some people will finish college and they have student loans and they join the military, and the military literally has a student loan relief where they pay off your student loans, and then for being in the military. And then in the future, for example, I have the option once I hit E6, once I become a staff sergeant, which isn't that far, because going into the military after college, you can go in as an E4, a specialist. So 2 more ranks, which is easily doable in just a couple of years. the military will literally pay for you to go get your master's. So it'll cost nothing for me to go get my master's. So that's like,
Can you go
that's
anywhere
such a
that you're
good.
accepted, or what's the limitation there?
If I choose to go get my master's, I can go anywhere I want. And there's like a list, depending on my MOS, there's like a list of majors, or what is it, master's programs that I
Oh,
could
that makes
choose.
sense for your career with
So
military.
yeah, so I could either boost my career, and honestly, it's a lot of career paths that I could use as a civilian as well after I get out. So it's super helpful. But basically what I would do is I would just go, and I'm sure you remember students at Platteville where we went, and they'd be in uniform or whatever. Basically, I could go to school for 2 years, and they would pay for my housing. I'd go to school full time, and then after my 2 years is up, then I would go back to my unit and continue work with my master's degree. So, but there, of course, there's requirements like you have to keep a certain GPA. You can't fail any classes, that kind of stuff. So, um, there's that. But they will literally pay for your master's.
So if I may, real quick, you bring up an interesting point, and I think this goes back to the Elizabeth Warren thing almost. Is like the military or armies is paying for you to go to school, or will pay back loans and that kind of thing, but they're also getting a pretty significant commitment out of you. So with
That's
this
true.
new plan, you can't just expect the government to be like, we'll forgive your loans. There's got to be some sort of there's got to be strings attached, I would assume.
Yeah, assuming
Like,
you're
what
above
would
a
those
B
strings be attached,
GPA or
like,
something like that.
you just can't get something for nothing too. Like they can't
Yeah,
afford
of course
to.
we have
No
to put
one.
in our time. Like
Yeah, exactly.
you're required to put in, like everyone's required to put in time. So
They're
basically what would
investing,
happen is
basically.
it's exactly, it's an investment. So that's kind of way to look at everything, even like training, exercises, all stuff. It's an investment on the military's part in people in their soldiers' experience. So by them sending me to school, and getting a higher education, obviously, I think so obviously I have to keep a certain GPA and pass and gain my credits and get my degree. But then I think I have an extended yearly requirement that I have to fulfill. So basically, it just extends my contract, which is not a big deal, especially if you plan on doing a full 20 years until retirement. So for me, someone like me that is planning on staying in, like it's a obvious, hands down, great deal, because it sounds like the military is willing to invest in me and my future. I'm gonna do it. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't cost me any, and it's a great experience for me. And after I get out, then I can use that experience to kind of help my civilian career as well. Does that
So
make sense?
yeah, no, that's great. If I may, I fully support the military path. Like I said, if I didn't have the advantages that I did, that was the route I would have gone. And frankly, I think I would have liked it. I think I would have liked it a lot, given my personality. And Kyle, for your sake, I'll stay off of politics. I guess I support that general notion, but in the sense of just sharing or making my statement, I pick on the left a lot. I will state very broadly, without anything specific, I firmly believe that the left is an idealist view. If you're looking at how the world ought to be run, is right. Not right as incorrect, not right as the left is right. But see what I did there? Yeah, that was wrong. The left is correct in the sense that we should all be singing Kumbaya. We should not be taking advantage of people. Everyone should be equal, and everything should be, fantastic. However, I firmly believe that reality, and if we were to, as a country, lean that far left, we would be a happier people. However, I am a believer in evil within the world, and does not have a backbone to deal with that. Quite frankly, the right is, overly aggressive, overly strong, but the left are sheep. The left are sheep, the right are wolves. It is how I look at it, and I want to be a wolf. Now I want to behave in a sheep-like manner.
Pretty
I want
political here, Nick.
No, this is
just
good.
stating,
it's just a good analogy. Go for it, Nick. I approve.
Right. I'm just stating that
if you're left, you're weak. If you're right, you're strong. That's the analogy Nick just made. Basically, if you lean to the left and all, you're a weakling, is what Nick just said.
But there is no question
as
how he feels. There is no question about how he feels.
The world
At least he's
should
laying
lean
it out
left.
there.
I would love to live in a world that leans left, but I don't believe in it. And therefore I lean right. Now, did I vote for Trump? No, I didn't. Did I vote for anyone in the last election? No, because I'm a horrible human being and you can castrate me for it.
There you go. If you don't vote,
Trump,
you do not have the... If I may, if you do not vote, this is one thing I do believe in politically, is if you do not vote, you have no right to complain. Either way.
No, I agree.
Nick, I have a question for you. All right, so I'm reading about Elizabeth because I don't follow politics. I don't read the news. I don't really like reading the news, so I have no idea even who she is. I'm reading about her right now, and obviously you're talking about her plan to eliminate tuition and student debt. It sounds like to me like she's trying to extend high school. Isn't that exactly what she's going for? Is basically
unintentionally yes. And this segues perfectly. Thank you. If I can just take the lead on this. In an ideal world, you're right. We would all have access to go to Harvard. We would all be going to Duke and supporting their basketball team. We'd all go to Alabama and support their football team. And everyone has access. But okay, you take the tuition factor out of it. Now it's down to standardized testing and acceptance. There's already, scandals for people getting into different schools. You are essentially taking college and saying, nope, this is an extension of high school. It's something that should happen. And the first thing that's going to happen is all the good professors are going to go work for a private school somewhere else. And those are going to be the schools everyone wants to get into because college is now high school continued. It's an absolute joke.
If I may, there was that famous song that said "High school never ends." But you did bring up. I had to do that. I couldn't. It was too good. So
kill me.
I just want to further drive that.
Dude, if I may, Brent's
we're talking about that. Well, hold on.
Brent's segue.
We're holding about.
I'm just on Brent's segues are the best. Continue.
We're talking about the left here and Elizabeth Warren, right? And it made me think back, and I realized that I just left behind the last 26 years of my life. And I'm moving forward onto my 27th. Last week was my birthday, and goodbye the first 26. Welcome 27. I left that life behind. I'm on a new path now, as is Kyle. As is Kyle. So
great job, Brandon. I'm very proud of you.
We're thinking about birthdays.
Segues to his own birthday.
What was everybody's favorite birthday party that they had? Like, you always have that one really great birthday party. What was your guys' favorite birthday?
That's a great question. I'm glad you asked. Now, Dylan, quick question regarding the military, and I want your opinion. Do you believe that the country would benefit from all serving in the military, similar to other countries, where you're required to do a certain amount of stint?
I actually wanted to bring this up tonight. And happy birthday, Brent. I wanted to bring this up.
Happy birthday, Brent. Ignore your question.
I actually wanted to bring this up, and I'm
candles of happiness, but
so I was actually just talking this about my family, and I've been talking this to my girlfriend because this is I'm actually a huge supporter of this.
T-minus 7 minutes to Game of Thrones time.
I know I'm super excited for that. I was actually going to bring this up tonight and get your guys' opinions because I'm a huge supporter of the mandatory military service for a limited number of years. Because I think, or the way I feel is that as soon as you graduate high school, you're not truly an adult yet, and a lot of people don't know what they want to do with their lives. And I think
I support this. This is why I asked. And
I think that maybe 2 years of mandatory military service will do a lot of good to this country. Because it's only 2 years. It's not gonna end your life. It's not gonna be. It's only 2 years. So
nope. Honestly, if I may, if I did not get a job coming straight out of college, I would have definitely considered the military. I literally have been into military recruiting for both Air Force and Army, and both of them basically said I can have whatever job I want. But it was one of those things where it's I'd be totally in for that. I wouldn't, because I got a job, Army/military wasn't a consideration. But if I didn't, I think that I would have seriously considered it, especially if you said that you were going in. As far as other countries that do that, I think, and I guess this is slightly towards my political view, but more towards just personally affecting me. I am a huge gun owner advocate. I believe that everybody should be able to own, and probably should own a gun, especially with including the learning portion of that. You can't. I don't want anybody to just own a gun, but if you have that learning portion, I'm totally in for it. But I forgot if it's like Iceland or something, has the lowest house breaking in crime rate. It's because you go down the street, and after you're done with the military, you get your firearm. So somebody's walking down the street, they know that house has a gun, and that house has a gun, and that house has a gun. They all have guns, and they all have somebody in them that knows how to use it. So I
like that. And also, I think being in the military gives you a greater appreciation for firearms, because you're trained on how to use it, especially if main weapons, sidearms, like you get training with all that, and you know how dangerous it can be. Like there's accidents that happen all the time. People are killed all the time. Like you have a greater appreciation for weapons. You know what I'm saying?
If I may, along weapon safety and everything else like that, which would be a byproduct certainly. How many people can you guys think of? And I don't want names or I don't want numbers, just because we don't want to throw anyone under the bus. But how many people can you think of that were actually ready for life after high school? Now, there's view of okay, you can throw them into college and they can figure things out, or they can go into the real world, or they can join the military. But if they're forced to join the military in some way, shape, or form, that more than anything else will, for lack of a better term, sober these kids up, these whiny brats who don't know anything, who want everything to be spoon-fed to them. If they're all of a sudden have to wake up at 6 a.m. and go for a run, I don't care if it's the fat kid. I was a chunky kid in high school. If I take an extra 10 minutes to go finish this run and I'm suffering, great. There's going to be a whole group of us. There's going to be a lot of us in that category. But something to force responsibility into the hands of the up and coming generation, because right now they go through high school, everyone gets their participation ribbons, and then they're thrown into the real world. And the first thing they do when things don't go right are their managers up their rear end, or they find out they have to pay for insurance, or they have loans outstanding. They just whine and complain on social media, and they want to quit. And then they turn out to be that homeless person on your couch.
I think if I may,
would be wonderful.
If I may, I think I love the discipline aspect of it, and it really teaches you how to grow up. But I think I would struggle with joining the military is something I've never really ever wanted to do, because I don't ever want to be part of something like kill. And that's not something that happens a lot, and those we do need that for protection. But like me personally, I'd rather have people that I don't want to go out and be a part of something that ends up with someone dying, even if it's to protect some. It's just one of those things where it's it's not in a life plan, and I know it's a lot more than that, but I feel like morally that'd be
so many more branches.
Yeah, I would say if I may,
I would do something I may support, but even then, it's your actions.
So
would be
if I may, Brent, I know Dylan will probably have
Dylan
will have much more insight into this, but there's jobs in the military where you're not even close to the firing of weapons at all.
Not even that, but thinking that it's even just being. You do this.
What if your job is to make sure
it goes into this?
You're not in charge of killing anybody, but your job is to make sure that everybody stays safe, or to help our guys get home. Your job is to get people
ambulance
home
or something. That would be more up my alley. And if that was the option, that would be fine. But the other half, I would. I want to
talk on this, Brent. So so I feel the same way you do. I came into the military. And I knowing full well that I do not want to shoot at anyone. I don't want to be responsible for killing someone. I just can't. I don't know if I would be able to deal with killing someone. Now, if I had to, if someone was shooting at me, you better believe I'm gonna shoot back because they're trying to kill me or my friends. But I don't want to be in that situation. And I knew right away that I'm not really one to shoot at people. I don't want to be that person. And I would much rather be the person that flies into combat to try to get someone out that's injured. So, I knew I've always wanted to work on aircrafts. I knew I wanted to work with helicopters. But I never this whole time I've been in the military, I don't want to be the one to shoot. I want to be the one flying to go.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we have on this podcast the best Battlefield 3 helicopter pilot in the world.
Wait, really?
All right. No.
He's the one guy that's the healer support.
He was always the pilot.
Note on that, and I'll drop it after this because I could keep this conversation going forever. I love this.
It's Game of Thrones time. We're at Game of Thrones time.
No, I want my final note. Disassociate yourself as a quote unquote non-member of the military. You feel like it's not your fault, whereas I feel as a citizen of the United States, anything and everything the military does, you're responsible for as a voting citizen. Granted, I didn't vote for president, so I'm a horrible human being. But this idea that you can disassociate yourself and say, "Oh, I'm not part of the military. I'd never hurt anybody." I'm not a fan of that. I get it. There's a lot of people like that, certainly, but I don't support the disassociation. If that makes any sense.
But that to that point, if you're forced into the military because of a national thing, you can kind of take that away. And then if you are on the helping our people get out of a situation or making sure they stay alive rather than the direct doing of damage.
The way I look at it is if you have a 2-year commitment out of high school, you have a 2-year commitment. With my experience in the military, you will probably not even get a deployment under your belt in 2 years. So you won't even be in a situation where you'll be overseas. And basically, it'll kind of give you that footstep into the military to either decide that you get out in 2 years and continue your civilian life choices, or you might find that you really enjoy it and you might want to stay in and get some more experience in the military. So like, I'm trying to remember where I was going with this, but it's only 2 years. So like I said, you probably wouldn't get a deployment on your belt, and it's not really a huge chunk of your life taken away by serving your country. I don't really see it as a big deal, and it's a great opportunity to give kids a chance to grow up a little bit and kind of figure out what they want to do with their life, because what I found is like the military is a great melting pot of different people from around the world, and you kind of get experience with different people and different experience. Like there's lots of people that I know, like half the people in my unit have degrees and stuff, and like, what's that, Kyle?
No,
he made a Forrest Gump reference, and I was thinking the exact same thing. Like Tex, I never figured out where he was from.
Okay,
I'm just saying that there's lots of different people.
Speaking of militaries and militia and killing things or things that are already potentially dead, it is time.
Dun, 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 dun.
Oh, you better believe we got the music. Who wants to start us off this week?
That was really good.
Who wants it? I'll take it if nobody else wants it.
You do the honors.
Game of Thrones Season 8 Episode 2 has released. I was kind of hoping, I had heard already that there was no Winterfell battle, but I was kind of hoping there would be at least something, or like the start of it, and then the end of the battle would be kind of like a Two Towers kind of scenario where this other army or something else shows up that turns the tides, or for either direction, I guess. But we got no battling, more setup. Again, good episode, solid episode. I would say episode 1 was probably a little bit more solid as far as things happening. Not too much happened this episode. The only major thing I would say is that Jaime showed up and they had lots of talks around him. And I guess the only other major thing, and it's not even really plot pushing, except I think it's now her card in being able to be killed off next episode is Brienne getting knighted. I think this episode was setting up a lot of characters to be able to be killed because their storylines kind of wrapped up a little bit. So I'd say Brienne is one of those where her story's now a little wrapped up. She could die. Jaime, maybe. They kind of had a little bit of redemption stuff with him. So I would still like to see him kill Cersei. That's the common prediction out there. But I would also see him dying this next episode as well, because he hasn't got too many other loose ends to wrap up besides Cersei. I don't know. Do you guys get that same feel?
I really didn't get. I didn't really expect the battle to start this episode. I kind of expected it to be more of wrapping up loose ends.
I did too. I just I hoped for it.
Yeah, I just kind of assumed it wouldn't, and like I saw it coming. Spoiler alerts, like the army like shows up at the very end. Like I expected that, but I enjoyed that the oh my God, what's the guys from the north showing up at Winterfell. So
The
that was kind of cool
the
that they all showed
the
up.
black
And
the take the black. Wow, can't
yeah,
think.
yeah, I know, same. But anyway, so everyone kind of showed up that is supposed to be there, and now
Night's
they're just kind of
Watch.
getting ready for
Nailed it.
the Night's
Night's
Watch.
Watch.
So yeah, so that was kind of cool. I think my favorite scene, obviously, was Brienne getting knighted. Like that one, like pulled on the heartstrings. So I thought that was like really good. Like I actually I was watching with my girlfriend, and I woke her up. I was just like, babe, you need to watch this episode, this section. Like
You
it's so
don't
good.
understand.
I woke her up in the middle of the night, and I was just like, you need to watch this, because it was so good.
Is she fully caught up now?
Oh yeah, she's been caught up.
Okay,
She's been
okay.
watching it with me. So, but so far, yeah, this episode was kind of slow. But you're right, it just tied up a lot of loose ends, and I'm really excited. There's the little scene with Arya that was kind of interesting.
I want
How
to.
amazing!
If I make
What's
a
that?
quick point, I made a prediction that there'd be something. She had that arrow. She'd be shooting a shaft. I didn't realize that the shaft was gonna go. I can't finish that. I'm sorry. That was bad. But it took a twist.
She ordered a shaft from Gendry, and Gendry gave her the shaft.
Oh, I love it.
There was another kind of stabbing going on, and it wasn't quite the.
Did you
where
see
you
that
Better than what I expected.
Sophie Turner, Sansa's actress? She had like I think it was either Twitter or Instagram. She like posted a video about like Game of Thrones with getting into that Easter spirit with some hopping on that pussy. It was pretty funny.
Really?
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Funny.
All right, Nick, take us.
I want to hear it, Nick.
Yep.
We need to hear.
Nick's got at least 10 minutes coming up right now. And it's
Give
gonna
us
be
the
all,
truth here.
It's all going to be Game
Tell
of
us
Thrones
all.
goodness.
What's the big twist?
I don't have a big twist. A lot of people really liked this episode, and unfortunately, I am not among them. Other than seeing Macy stripped down, I guess that was mildly intriguing. But other than that, I thought it was too neat. It was all just wrapped up in a bow, and I understand that. Yeah, theoretically, in the next episode, a lot of these characters are going to die. But I keep thinking to myself, this is too neat. This is too nice. Like, if it were written by George R.R. Martin, they would come screeching and sliding into Winterfell, and there wouldn't be time for these niceties. You wouldn't tie everything up perfectly. That's not what he does.
It'd be short moments of, I appreciate you, like the mutual understanding in the eyes, but they wouldn't have time to actually discuss it.
So I gotta think. Why are they waiting for morning? They're dead. What does night or morning matter? Why don't they just take Winterfell whenever? Like, you bring up a good point.
Wait, what?
So like the dead, the army of the dead is coming to Winterfell.
They asked when they would be there.
Waiting until the morning to attack. They're gonna be there.
No.
It'll be before.
Oh,
morning.
is that when they got?
Yeah,
there?
they said, when will they be here? And then the other guy said,
Before the
probably
sun comes
before
up.
morning, like before the sun comes up. He
Yeah,
was giving
so-
he was giving an
Teleporting.
estimate as far as when.
Okay,
so they're gonna get there.
at least there's that
It'll be a night battle.
Or at least the
but
very beginning of it, like the good first part of it.
between all the time warping and transportation of what it is they're doing, which
They've done better this year than last season, I will say.
maybe
for the
because
time
we're
warping.
used to it from last season. But yes, but then how everything just got wrapped up so nicely. I mean, it's cool to see the interactions between the characters. The other big note that I don't think anyone mentioned yet, Ghost made an appearance.
Very
in
important.
This episode.
Was
there.
it actually
not
Ghost,
notice.
or was that like an actual ghost appearing on the screen? I don't
know.
Was-
It's hard to
was
tell.
Ghost actually-
Yeah,
It
Dylan,
was pretty weak.
when
Yeah,
the
it was
three
real
Night's Watch guys are standing on the wall, like overlooking, Ghost is standing right behind them. It's like, oh, well, Ghost is there. It's just like, okay.
I didn't
Right.
even notice.
Didn't even move.
And-
It was probably
As
stuffed.
super fans and a fan who has his dog named after Ghost, I was ready to riot last season when Jon Snow came back to Winterfell and there was no, at least greeting to his, companion who's been with him through everything in the Night's Watch.
A huge deal for the first 5 seasons, and then just disappears.
I understand Jon Snow's a Targaryen, not a Stark, but the connection with this wolf in the books is so huge.
He's half Stark
in the show. Well, right, but as given that it's the Westerosi world, the male lineage is deemed more important. To have Ghost make an appearance was nice. I got excited for about a half a second, and then nothing happened. And it's like, oh, all right, well, Ghost is there. Good to know. We've tied another bow on. Yep. Ghost is definitely toast this next episode. So I'm figuring out all these details and every.
Is Ghost getting turned into a White Walker, and Jon have to kill Ghost?
The thing I really liked was that scene, or the longest scene. It was where Brienne at the very end gets knighted. Seeing a lot of those characters interact was enjoyable.
That was cool.
It was a very simple scene, though. I think my biggest knock is the show writers basically said, okay, we're going to go huge on the battle scene. And, for the opener, they had the dragons flying around, and that was a cool scene. I think Dylan said he really enjoyed that. I thought it was a waste of money as far as, okay, yep, you've got dragons flying around, but it was to do what? Just to go have a little snooky time in a secret hiding spot? Like, okay, that was pretty useless in advancing the plot, but visually attractive. Now, the second episode, I think it wrapped everything in a bow, prepared people to die. Missandei and Grey Worm are both effing toast, no doubt, based on that conversation. But it was super cheap. Like that scene that was so cool around the fire, done awesome, that in a warehouse or in any random building, and built that set super cheap.
Yeah, saved that money.
Said, yep, we're gonna save all of our money and we're gonna blow our load in the third episode and maybe the fourth or fifth a little bit, but it's all going towards the battle, which is really exciting. But it's all come together too nicely.
This battle is also, if I may, hyped a lot. This battle's been hyped a lot as the biggest battle in cinema history. We'll see.
Well, notice
I think the expectations were too high.
They ran out of wine before the night was even over. They definitely skipped on the budget. Like, they can't even give the actors wine to last the entire episode. No, I think the thing with that, I think the big twist is they set it up like, oh, these guys are all going to die. Like, Brienne's story arc is, it's complete. Now they're going to just axe her off now that we're, like, super happy for her. Won't it be, at this point, a bigger spoiler, like a bigger twist to not kill him? Like, I feel like it's almost what it's been up to. Like, we expect the death now. The twist is like, keep him alive. Grey Worm and Sandra, keep him living. That's my twist. That's what I would do. They'll never expect it.
I think Jaime's gonna die like real quick.
Never expect it.
And Brienne's gonna be really upset about it. Nick, I wanted to ask you. So does Jon Snow finding out that he's a Targaryen? Do you think it's already changed his relationship with Dany?
Oh, for sure. We saw it in the episode.
Yeah, and that was purposely timed out, where every time she gets to a really hard point, she gets interrupted. She was having that conversation with Sansa, and, oh, by the way, hey, we need you urgently. Okay, yep, we'll just leave that as a cliffhanger. I am Aegon Targaryen. Well, who told you? My best friend and my brother. Convenient. You realize that gives you a claim to the Iron Throne. The last male.
Yep, I know.
Oh, horn blows. Oh crap, we gotta go.
All he has to say is yes or no. Like, he could have just like yes, no, and then they could have.
Well, I don't think he even knows what he wants though yet.
Right.
Jon Snow doesn't fully know.
Jon Snow has never wanted to rule. Characters,
but he's also like a super honorable person. So if it's his responsibility to rule, he'll take it.
Right.
I don't know. I guess we'll find out.
And then there's the whole incest. Does that bother them? Historically, Targaryens, it hasn't bothered. But, seeing that Jon was raised as a Stark or a a snow, I suppose, but basically a Stark.
Incest is best.
He has certain and what have you. So I don't know if he would be okay being with Dany as king and queen. And I it's all too neat. It's not how it's going to fall together. The theories that I've read and everything that goes along with it is the opening credits, that spinning ball with everything written on it. That's the same ball that's in the Citadel that maintains all the histories. So Samwell needs to survive, and he's going to write the history, which is how we're reading everything that's happening. If you were from a book perspective, is from Samwell's telling of these different characters.
Pulling the old Hobbit.
Yeah, something along those lines. And, that's going to, the question remains, is Dany pregnant from having sex with Jon, which I believe she's supposed to be later in the season. And hypothetically...
Spoiler on top of spoilers.
Oh, right.
Dude,
these are all theories. There's the other
pretty strong seed if she was not supposed to have kids, and then Jon's like, yeah,
impregnate her.
You were being snowed. You can have kids. Whatever.
At any rate, the other lovely theory is within, and I don't know if it's within the world of Westeros or another story that was written, a legend within Westeros about Nissa, where this last hero, in order to stave off the long night previously, had to have a sword forged. And the short version of the story is he killed a lion with it, and he put it was imbibed or imbued with the lion's blood or the lion's strength, that it was forged a bunch of times. And what he had to do to make the sword as strong as it needed to be to fend off the long night was he had to kill the love of his life. So the smith took the sword, or the warrior took his sword, and he took the woman that he loved, and he killed the woman he loved,
pulling the old Thanos
her heart, to make the sword super strong and powerful, and basically have the light of day with it. And he then went to slay on everything. So the theory there is that Jon will have to kill Daenerys, or vice versa, in some way, shape, or form. Which is, I think, Brent, we were talking about this earlier. You're like, spoiler, or plot twist, Daenerys has to kill Jon. Like, no, actually, according to the legend, if it's how it's all supposed to pan out nicely, Jon's going to have to kill Daenerys, according to that. Now, that's if it all goes according to the old legend. If you're a believer that the history needs to repeat itself and blah blah blah, there's all kinds of lovely details there that I've read and understand. But that may be getting a little too deep for you guys if you're going to keep making running out of wine jokes.
Well, I think it's fair.
And ball jokes, because he has
to be able to make jokes about it.
If I may, though, that Bran, the things we do for love line, that was gold.
Troll award.
Yep.
The things we do I don't like
jokes
it.
On me. That's
so good.
That's the same level.
I think it's silly. It doesn't impact. He's a three-eyed raven. Why would he hold grudges of past?
He doesn't. But just like that was a little bit of human Bran coming out, and just a little poke with a knife, just tip in the stomach a little bit, just a little bit.
Maybe. I don't know.
I enjoyed it.
No, maybe that's what it was.
Seemed like a joke to me, but we don't make jokes.
Listen to the directors after the episode. You have access to HBO. Afterward, Dave and Dave sit down and talk about the episode. They quite literally say that's what it was.
The other thing that I saw as a theory that was brought up is that in that ending shot where you see the White Walkers, you don't see the king and the dragon. So one theory I saw is that hold on, let me finish. One theory I saw is that the Night King is actually on his way to King's Landing, gonna fuck that all up and come in with another army from the south.
Ooh.
Because you don't see
isn't
him.
Isn't there a bigger army in the south and the north?
There's much bigger. There's a lot more people. Yeah, and then
the Golden Company of 10,000, and then there's a million
20.
in King's Landing. 20,000.
If I may, if a bunch of wildlings,
no elephants.
If a bunch of wildlings can outrun them to Winterfell, how are they supposed to get down south and back up to Winterfell?
Well, the dragon getting down south
impactful?
would be pretty easy.
I
It
still
is
think
The
coming
wildlings
back.
will still take a while. It still take too long. I don't see it.
Yeah, it did take him 7 seasons to get to the wall, so there's a point there.
Well, that's the time warping.
Yeah.
If I may, the other theory I had regarding the situation, and based on the review videos that I watched from sources that I respect,
I got this stuff from a place.
I pick out certain content creators that I agree
I get
with
it. I get
or
it. It's
have
just
been right. And
the way you said it's
are
basically
easy
like,
on
yep,
ears.
I just pulled this out of nowhere. Just go with it.
It's not at all what I said. Content creators that I respect have been noting that everyone keeps saying the crypts are the safest place to be. Now the writers are not very good for Game of Thrones now that they're on their own, and because they have hammered the crypts are the safest place to be, it had to have been said 6+ times in the last episode. Everyone keeps saying the crypts are the safest place to be, and we know from the teaser trailer the crypts are probably not the safest place to be because at some point in that series,
was attractive.
beer drinking will do that.
Let's go.
It happens when you run out of wine.
Well, like
exactly.
Daenerys has a couple times in the previews of the next episodes or whatever said the dead are already here. I mean, there are already dead people buried in the crypts.
That's lovely, but if you also remember, there are ways into Winterfell and out of Winterfell that are only known to the Starks. And you have to remember the theory behind the Night King is that he is actually a Stark.
I did not know that.
Or isn't Benjen with them?
No, brother Benjen
was killed.
Is dead.
But did he get turned into a?
No, he was stopped from being turned into a white, and then therefore when they killed him, he was just dead after that.
He just died. Okay, never mind. Your theory might be right.
But at any rate, the Night King is allegedly a Stark and would therefore know how to get in and out of Winterfell without being seen, which, spoiler alert, is through the crypts. The crypts have been a highly touted thing within the books, and the show has only just made them a big deal. But again, given that the writers are not that creative, if they keep saying, yes, the crypt's the safest place to be. Yes, the crypt's the safest place to be.
And the crypts are supposed to be bigger than Winterfell itself. Like, they go down further and further. Like, the newest graves are at the top. So when they go down and see Ned and, Lyanna and whatnot, those are all new graves. Those are brand new graves compared to the generations and generations for thousands of years of Starks below
and
that.
There's the theory that, either the Night King will raise the dead because they don't burn their dead. They just bury them in there. Either the Starks of old will come back, like...
Ooh, that'd be awesome.
What's the Lord of the Rings? Lord of the Rings style, where you bring back all the old kings of winter. And that may be bad. But also, again, you have entrances and escape routes for the Starks historically that are unguarded. And they will, I'm guessing they will either creep in that way or they will raise the Kings of Winter in a bad way, and the crypts will no longer be the safest place to be.
Or it could be an escape route like Helm's Deep in the Two Towers, where they go back and we can get in these caves and get out to safety, and they can sneak out of Winterfell. And
correct, it can be both actually. Remember, there's probably going to be more than one way in and out, but yes, based on the information I have from my sources that I'm pulling out of my rear end because Kyle says so, hypothetically, yes, if the battle for Winterfell is lost, they will take an escape route through the crypts.
Okay, let's go down the line and just do one crazy prediction for next episode / the season. What would be your one quick crazy prediction?
Tyrion is the prince that was promised.
Is what?
A princess?
The prince that was promised.
Tyrion is the prince that was promised.
Jon Snow, it's Tyrion that's going to end up on the Iron Throne.
Pretty crazy.
Ooh, that's pretty crazy.
Dylan, what do you got?
I think I'm going to stick with my one that earlier. I think Jaime Lannister is going to be one of the first die in this episode.
I think I'm going to stick with mine that the Night King and Dragon are not at Winterfell. And my assumption would be King's Landing, but my prediction is that they're just not at Winterfell at all. Because Bran's whole plan hinged around him coming for Bran. And if he's not at Winterfell at all, that's going to throw some shit to the fan. It's going to be nobody's going to know what to do because their whole plan hinged on getting to the Night King and killing him. Nick?
Oh boy. Two-parter. Number 1. There will be elephants. Number 2.
That's the prediction.
I didn't get number 1, but I got the elephants was number 2.
All the dragons will die is number 1.
Okay. I can see that.
And there will be elephants. Cersei will get what she wants because Euron wants round 2 through 12 or whatever.
To put a prince in her belly. All right, Nick, you want to wrap us up?
Oh, there's a wrap up. Oh, geez. Well, I guess if that's all we have to say. That was episode 45 of If I May. I hope you all enjoyed. We have new episodes every Thursday. Feel free to support us. We have merch available. Subscribe, share, rate, review. If you want to get in contact with us, give us ideas, topics for whatever you want to hear in the episodes. Political, non-political, you tell us. DM us on Twitter at Zarubust or email at zarubust@gmail.com. Have a great Thursday, and we'll see you next week.